Okay, kia ora y muy buenas tardes a todos en Chile. Welcome everybody. Good morning to everybody in New Zealand. It's very nice to see all of you. Just change our view here so I can see all of you. Again, welcome to our inaugural Winds of Change Symposium. I'm joined here by Philippa Keeney on my left and Francisco Barraza, and along with Christina Rieselman and Greer Gilmer, we've been kind of organizing and running this first year of the Winds of Change program, which again brings participants, future leaders that are interested in climate change and climate resilience together from New Zealand and from Chile. So really grateful for the support from the Latin America Centers for Asia Pacific Excellence. This is a New Zealand program that have been supporting us this year and again in the future. And to welcome all of you, we're really pleased to have Dr. Matthew Omar join us. He's the director of the Latin American CAPE program here in New Zealand. And again, he'd like to offer some welcoming words. Kia ora, Matthew, and bienvenido. Matthew, you just need to unmute yourself.
Absolutely. Kia ora koutou, kia ora everyone. Good morning to you all joining us from New Zealand. Buenas tardes a todos los que están con nosotros desde Chile. I'm Dr. Matthew Omar, Director of the Latin America Center of Asia Pacific Excellence, or LATAM CAPE. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this morning's Winds of Change virtual symposium. We're delighted to have you all with us this morning. Our particular greetings go to Her Excellency Jackie Kane, penultimate New Zealand Ambassador to Chile, Juan Enrique Loya, Deputy Head of Mission in Chile's Embassy to New Zealand, attendees from New Zealand's Climate Change Commission, other New Zealand government or Chilean government agencies, Latin American New Zealand Business Council too. Also, greetings to representatives from the 4 universities in the CAPE Consortium, especially Chris Moy and Philippa Keeney and other colleagues in Otago who have worked so hard to organise this project and event. The Latin America CAPE is one of 3 university-based centres of Asia Pacific excellence, creating a step change in New Zealanders' Asia Pacific skills and knowledge. Like the 2 other CAPEs focused on North Asia and Southeast Asia, we are developing the capability of young people and businesses to engage with our focus regions and drawing on university expertise and networks to achieve that goal. In our case too, we really wish to bring New Zealanders closer to Latin America through raising awareness of Latin America in this country. This way we support New Zealand's greater economic growth and well-being. If you haven't heard of us before, over the last 3 or 4 years, we've developed a number of really innovative projects, primarily aimed at business and educational audiences. Examples of those offerings include documentaries on successful exporters to Latin America, which we're going to launch next month, which are really excellent. We've got an app showcasing children's writing and art on Latin America, which we translate into Spanish and Portuguese. And our Raised Up virtual reality project recently took the Amazonian rainforest into our country's towns and cities. But we're not here to talk about them today. We're here to talk about the first fruits of another flagship program, one conceived and driven by our consortium partner, the University of Otago. It is our response to what is widely seen as the most pressing issue of our time, climate change. And critically, it highlights the commonalities between New Zealand and one of our Latin American neighbours just across the ocean. In so doing, we also address several of our goals: to enhance connectivity between communities, to deepen New Zealand's engagement with the Asia Pacific region, to strengthen the dissemination of university-based knowledge, to inform policy making, and to enable businesses to engage effectively in the Asia Pacific region. In a minute, I'll be handing back to Chris, Associate Professor Chris Moy from Otago's Geology Department, who's been the academic champion of this collaboration. He'll really explain what it's all about and how it unfolded. But before I do, may I say how pleased I am at the contribution it is already making to bilateral relations at the people-to-people level between New Zealand and Chile. Our two countries have a history. 49 years ago, we based embassies in each other's capitals. Last year, our Cape supported a webinar looking at how they're responding to COVID and all the trade disruption, geopolitical challenges. And now we have this program, which we all managed to pull off despite closed borders, thanks to the passion and flexibility of its Otago champions and my own Cape team. Late last month, New Zealand's Climate Change Commission released its first report on how this country can align its actions with its targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It could not be timelier, therefore, for future leaders of our two nations to explore together key questions about how we can respond to climate change and develop sustainable business practices. Can't wait to learn more about the range of projects you'll present us today, to learn from you all and to reflect afterwards on how that learning can inform the ongoing development of this project and attract more individuals like your good selves to participate in our transformative initiatives. For now, back to Chris, but before I do, Viva Chile, Viva Nueva Zelanda.
Excellent, Matthew. Thank you very much for joining us and for those really kind words, and of course for supporting us this past year. We again are all really grateful. So again, I'd like to just welcome everyone. It's really nice to see so many kind of smiling faces out there joining us for our symposium today. The Winds of Change program brings together this year 30 participants from New Zealand and Chile. And today you'll see results of let's say about a 3-month or summer project work that they've collaboratively developed together over that time period. And so through this program, we're really grateful for help that we've received from the embassies, both in Chile and New Zealand. They've been really helpful in getting the word out and helping us recruit these participants, these future leaders from a variety of different backgrounds in New Zealand and Chile. And so we have 20 New Zealand-based participants that are 10 of them are Kiwis and 10 are Chileans living in New Zealand. And we have another 10 that are part of our program that are based in Chile right now. And so these guys have accomplished so much, and I'm really proud of what they've done and the hard work they put in, despite some of the difficulties of starting a international exchange in 2020. So we've been able to get together on Zoom quite a bit, and in their project groups, and again, you'll learn more about their projects in a little bit. They've been able to work together, build really strong relationships and collaborations that I think are really, really important for solving the climate crises and of the future. So again, it's been, I think in this respect, very, very successful that we've been able to start and initiate and now begin to grow our network of 30 participants. So over the last 3 months, since really the start of November, we've hosted a handful of climate change workshops and seminars that had both a Chilean focused as well as a New Zealand focus. We've had seminars that focused on science communication and kind of instructional ways to tell a story and to integrate science outcomes with that. We've also had a handful of other online workshops over Zoom that we've been able to get together and discuss some of these initiatives and just kind of get together to talk about some of these project outcomes, which has been great. For our New Zealand-based participants, we've also been able to get together, luckily, in November and do a field immersion class. And this is something that we did in mid-November in Fiordland as well as in the Mackenzie Basin. And one of the things that we'd like to share with you today are some of the outcomes of that field immersion class. You know, ultimately, our goal here at Otago for this program is to not only grow the network, but also get us through the next few years when in-person exchanges are going to be able to resume, and we can kind of bring together our Chileans and our Kiwis together in different locations. But this video that Yannick Gorman, Yannick is is a postgraduate student here at Otago in the Science Communications Department. And he's put together just an amazing video that highlights some of this work that we did in the field, and will give you a sense of the things that we can do when we bring together, when we bring people together. All right, I'll share our screen here. There we go.
Can you guess where we are? We have waterfalls, tons of biodiversity. Huh, is that a weka? Do you know it yet? It's the deepest sound around. It's not Milford Sound, it's Doubtful Sound. And most of the time, it looks like this. Now, as the climate warms, light showers have swelled into storms, putting livelihoods at risk. Obviously, we've got to do something, or else. Let's get ready to explore Doubtful Sound's watery depths for its ancient clues.
Make sure it's nice and tight. All right. This is one sensor that we have. And in oceanography, we typically refer to these types of instruments as CTDs.
Okay, so this is Chris. He's the brain of the operation. He and his partner Christina are both climate scientists and make a great team. They're passionate educators and know their work is a key component in combating climate change. But they can't battle alone.
When I moved to Chile in 2003, 2004, I really benefited from a network that was established there.
Now, why Chile? That's far as. Actually, it's geographically very similar. In fact, some of the environments are so similar you can hardly tell them apart. I mean, look. But they say beauty comes with a price that these two countries also share. The problems are severe, but many hands make light work. With the support of the Latin American Cape, Chris's vision of reviving a Kiwi-Chilean connection is coming alive. Let's spend some money on a plane ticket and get going. But no, of course.
But because of these challenges, we've had new opportunities arise that we probably didn't consider in the beginning.
Have you heard of a Chiwi? It's what we call a Chilean living in New Zealand.
I'm Maddie, to meet you.
Plenty of young Chileans here reached out wanting to be part of the Winds of Change. Los Vientos del Cambio. Chris selected 19 Chiwis and Kiwis and brought them to where they begin their adventure.
All right, well, welcome everyone. Great to see you. I'm glad you're here. So we're here at the University of Otago in Dunedin, and what we'll do is we'll do the drive across Southland to Lake Manapori. We'll get on a ferry at Lake Manapori, cross it, and then get on another coach and go down to Deep Cove to meet the vessel.
Some say the journey is the destination, but we're just about to get started. With us on board, we have...
My name is Jenny Steen. I study geology and science communication. So those are the little instruments. One measures the pH, one measures the salinity, one measures the pressure.
She studies how to make the science lingo less of a mystery to the public, but not everyone here is Jenny. So what does it take to turn lines into language, foreign to familiar, this bunch into a team?
My name is Paula. My background is in sustainable tourism. We can relate quite easily between each other because we are all coming from different aspects looking at the same purpose.
So they got their communication going. The translator's at work. Now they need to start pulling into the same direction. Otherwise, well, our mission will fail. Okay, put on the cheesy music. We're not going to let that happen. Driven by a shared goal to understand the impacts of climate change, everyone put their heads together to learn in earnest. It's all about being curious, leaving your comfort zone, and testing out new grounds. Sometimes it's exhausting and dull, but after a nap, it's time for a smile on your face, a jump into the freezing fjord, and an occasional dance, just to set up the right atmosphere to get to work. But first, we need to take a step back, or up.
I think it's important for people to understand the world around them.
The reason we are heading up into this unique rainforest is because this is where our ancient clues start their journey. Like everywhere on Earth, carbon is the basis of life. All these plants around here live and die, and carbon is part of their diet. They consume it, and also give it back to the environment. The environment then further transports it from puddles to streams to waterfalls. Eventually, it makes it into the fjord. You can see the water is brown. And that is because of all the organic matter which will eventually sink and become incorporated into the sediment at the bottom of the fjord. The fjord naturally buries and stores massive amounts of carbon.
Grab down.
Grab down, 11:55.
Careful, watch out. This mud is precious. Sediment in here can be over 1,000 years old. And even though it doesn't smell like it,
It's really, really delicate.
its muddy layers can tell us a lot about how the climate changed in the past. And knowing about the past helps us to predict the future. The rest of the team document exact coordinates which will be important later in the lab. For now, can we be happy with the results? Are we done with saving the planet? Well, no. The collected data is important, but only a small, slimy contribution to the solution. So why is it even worth doing all this?
I believe people are the solution to climate change.
Humanity needs to adapt to the nature.
We left one extreme and travelled to the next. The Mackenzie Basin is the driest landscape in New Zealand.
The challenges that climate change presents for us are intercultural, they're interdisciplinary, and they're also international.
Mother Nature is well connected, and we can follow her example. Together we can share knowledge.
Means obtain help us make connections between peoples with different backgrounds.
It helps me to grow a network with people with similar interests.
No matter if you're a scientist or a salmon farmer.
See the similarities, see the differences, get ideas from each other about how we can combat the growing challenges and make it a truly global effort.
Think of it like Natalie does.
The Winds of Change program is important to me as it has allowed me to gain a better understanding of the actual science behind climate change in order to add it to sort of the policies I want to be working on in the future to mitigate this crisis.
Whatever area we decide to work in, considering how our environment feels about our actions doesn't hurt. We met businesses, environmentalists, people who are currently making decisions about how we use our planet. Because we will also have to make decisions.
I'm interested in thinking about how we can integrate sustainability into all dimensions of life.
I want to make sustainability profitable for companies and industry.
So it's a very dynamic environment. It's not static.
Planet is something that affects all of us. And in order to make positive change towards creating a better planet for everyone, we need leaders. We need politicians, we need scientists, and we need a community of people who are passionate about making the world a better place. And that's what the Winds of Change program is.
So join us and become part of the winds of change.
All right. Yannick, well done. That was fantastic. It really encapsulated a lot of our New Zealand-based participants and their thoughts and their passions and what they're thinking about towards our future. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce some of our groups and kind of introduce you guys to some of their fantastic work that they've been able to accomplish this summer. A little bit about Zoom etiquette. What we'll do is we'll have everyone continue to stay muted, but if you have any questions that you would like me and Francisco and Philippa to ask the participants, please enter them through the chat, and we can make sure we can get those questions to them. Actually, one aspect that I'll say, everyone should have a copy of the program, and you can kind of follow along where we are, and you can have an idea of what the content for a lot of these projects are. So to keep on schedule here, I'd like to introduce our first group, which has a project focus on wetland restoration, and that includes Javiera Benavente from a Chilean currently based in Auckland, Pia Weber, who is based in Chile, and Rachel Keane. And so what we'll do is we can have our participants from that group, Javiera, Pia, and Rachel. Are you guys there? Can you wave and say hello?
Hey.
You guys can unmute.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Good morning, guys. Good to see you. I'll let you guys take the floor and introduce yourselves and introduce your project. And you can also tell us when you're ready to go, and we'll share your video when you're ready.
I'll start. Okay, I'm Javiera. I'm a PhD student at the University of Otago. We decided to do this project about wetland restoration because wetlands are a very good sink for carbon, and they're a very endangered ecosystem. So we wanted to focus on groups in Chile and New Zealand that are working on wetland restoration and the defense of wetlands that are very threatened right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what Chile just recently published a law that will protect urban wetlands. So we wanted to connect with the organization that we're actually trying to move forward in order to protect their urban wetlands. So we connected that organization, and also Rachel and Javiera connect with the organization in New Zealand that we're working also on wetland restoration. So yeah, we just wanted to highlight the relevance of natural-based solutions, just enhance what natural ecosystem already do for the environment. And we can show the video, I think.
As some of the most important carbon sinks on the planet, wetlands play an essential role in mitigating climate change. They do this by sequestering carbon through photosynthesis and storing it in the form of plant biomass, sediments, and soil. Soil accumulation is particularly important, as most wetland soil provides anaerobic conditions that inhibit the decomposition of organic matter, allowing carbon to stay stored in the soil for up to thousands of years. Peatland, for example, covers 3% of the world's surface, but store about 30% of all land-based carbon. The destruction of peatlands account for 10% of annual CO2 emission, underscoring the importance of protecting this type of ecosystem as a strategy for mitigating climate change. The protection and restoration of wetlands is also an effective mitigation and adaptation approach for some of the impact of climate change. Inland wetlands can soak up water during rainy periods and release it gradually during drier periods, reducing the risk of floods and delaying the onset of droughts. Similarly, coastal wetlands can absorb the shock of tides and storm in coastal areas, protecting the coast from the effects of sea level rise and tsunamis. Protecting wetlands can also help reduce biodiversity loss. Wetlands can act as a refuge for sensitive freshwater species, mitigating the effects of extreme changes in temperature and precipitation. Wetland vegetation can lower the water temperature, allowing aquatic species to survive while the water gets warmer and giving them more time to adapt to new conditions of their environment. Furthermore, wetlands are essential sites for bird migration and reproduction. The number of wetlands in Chile is almost 40,000, including from the highland wetlands in the north to the Magallanes peatland in the south, only 14 of which are recognized under the international protection category called Ramsar. All the remaining wetlands are exposed to the threats of pollution, the impact of development projects in the area, climate change, among others. Last year, on January 23rd, the Urban Wetland Law was published, which seeks to grant a certain level of protection to wetlands that are within urban limits. In this context, environmental organizations are seeking alliances with city council or government authorities to promote the protection of wetlands on their territories that hold a high value to the communities and species that depend on those ecosystems. Rocío González, Executive Director of Futaleufú Riverkeeper, will briefly tell us about the efforts her organization is developing, supported by Ñenco Foundation, to protect the urban wetland of Futaleufú.
We are at Laguna Espejo in Futaleufú, Chilean Patagonia. Laguna Espejo is the body of water closer for people in town. It has a very high historical and cultural importance. Is the home for different species of birds, amphibians, and fish. And as you can see, it has a very high scenic value, which makes it one of the main touristic attractions for visitors. What we're doing right now is gathering information to submit an application to the Ministry of Environment and declare this Laguna Espejo as an urban protected wetland. The main threats that Laguna Espejo is facing right now are related to littering, to the presence of invasive species, and the growth of population and urban development. Futaleufú Riverkeeper has been doing several cleanups and educational workshops to highlight the value of Laguna Espejo. Right now, with this Chilean law, we have a great opportunity to declare Laguna Espejo as an urban protected wetland and move forward the protection and conservation of our natural heritage.
At the Center for Biodiversity and Restoration at Victoria University of Wellington, students and scientists are using a blend of ecological and social research to improve outcomes for wetland restoration in a collaboration called Wetlands for People and Place.
Wetlands are one of the most most threatened ecosystems worldwide, especially in New Zealand. I think within the Wellington region, there's something like 1% of the wetland that used to be here left. For my project, I'm looking at, the technical term is conservation or restoration genetics of swamp mairi, which is a native tree. What this really means is that I'm trying to look at the genetic diversity of the species across New Zealand. I'm hoping to be able to model how best to restore genetic diversity of trees and of plants in a landscape so that we can actually model this through the use of tools such as Lucy, and then enable us to make plans and put these in place before having to sit on the ground and essentially plant trees but find out that we've made the wrong decisions 10 years later.
To help identify these key areas, the research utilizes a globally renowned mapping technology called Lucy, developed right here at Victoria University.
Lucy is the Land Utilization and Capability Indicator Framework. It is a decision support tool that takes information about topography, land cover, soil, climate, things like that. And then it looks at these things and tries to understand where you have what we call ecosystem services, things like flood mitigation, carbon sequestration, or where you might have things like erosion, where you might need to put management interventions. So what Lucy can do is that it looks at the landscape and tries to figure out, okay, where might wetlands be, or where might you put potential wetlands for things like restoration, to enhance flood mitigation, or to enhance nutrient trapping, that kind of thing. That's also really good for finding where wetlands might have been historically. So where conditions of the soil or the land now might have been suitable for wetlands before any land use change occurred to it. And that's really important for future restoration or for monitoring existing wetlands. So the really cool thing about models like Lucy and climate models in general is that we can sort of look towards the future and make guesses or estimates of what things might be given certain conditions. So even though Lucy takes in climate data that's historical, like what's happening now, you can easily feed in climate data that's, like 10% increase in dryness or 10% increase in precipitation, and then see what happens in the landscape at that point. And maybe that'll help you figure out, all right, this area is going to be flooded, I need to do something about that. This area might lose its carbon sequestration, I got to do something about that.
Restoration increases the wetland's ability to store carbon and to be able to abate flood. Biodiversity is significantly higher in restored wetlands, as you might expect. Wetlands are very integrated, often with waterways, and waterways are always changing courses and going different places, and so wetland restoration will have its challenges as far as fencing off wetlands and riparian areas, and when the watercourse changes, we'll have to adjust that.
Genetic diversity is very important because it allows trees and plants and animals, life in general, to adapt to things like climate change.
Well done, guys. That was fantastic. Excellent. Again, if you have any questions towards any of the groups, please put them in the chat, and we'll ask the participants or the group members those questions on your behalf. I noticed that we're getting a little bit of lag with the video, not only in Yannick's film, but also in this last one. And what we'll do is we'll compile many of them on a YouTube channel, and we'll distribute that link through the registration emails that we have. So stay tuned if you want to watch those again at some stage. Okay, I'm looking at the time. I want to be cognizant of that. I don't see any questions in the chat right now, but I'd like to thank Javiera, Pia, and Rachel again. Fantastic job, really well done, and we're again grateful for your participation in the program. This has been great. We're going to move on to a second group. Consisting of Jenny Steen from the University of Otago, based here in Dunedin, Valeria Gonzalez, based in Chile, and William Henriquez, based in Wellington right now. And they're going to present the work that they did and show a movie called Facing the Flood that they put together over the summer. Jenny, Willie, and Valeria, can you guys unmute yourselves and introduce yourselves real quick and what your thoughts are about the film that you guys compiled?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Valeria, and currently I'm doing my master's degree in territorial management. We started with this idea of the flooding that we will be presenting to you, because we saw in some statistics that it was a huge problem in New Zealand, and that coincides with what we knew about Chile. And there is much talk about water scarcity, but what happens when you go from not having water to having so much that it generates a natural disaster?
Yeah, hi, my name is William Enriquez. I am PhD student at Victoria University of Wellington, and we are now show you a short video about flooding. We're going to see two cases, one in south of Dunedin, the South Island of New Zealand, and another case in the north of Chile, the city of Copiapó. So yeah, so let's see the video now, please.
In this neck of the woods, water is a highly charged word because it doesn't mean drinking water.
Y el día anterior me acuerdo que estaba muy soleado y al otro día empezó a llover y fue súper curioso la verdad, porque después siguió lloviendo.
La verdad que fue felicidad, porque desde que me había venido a Santiago que no veía llover. Entonces la verdad es que nunca pensé que podría pasar algo más.
In 2015, two cities on opposite sides of the world each experienced an extreme rainfall event which led to flooding. On March 25th, in the desert city of Copiapó in Chile, roads became torrents of muddy water as exceptionally heavy rain caused the Copiapó River to burst its banks.
Me acuerdo de haber levantado y haber visto cómo estaba pasando el agua por afuera de mi casa. Pasó el agua, botó los postes, me acuerdo. Me acuerdo de haber mucho susto en ese momento porque los postes quedaron colgando prácticamente. Mucha gente tuvo como miedo al tipo de electrocutarse y todo el tema.
Then on June 3rd, the New Zealand city of Dunedin received 3 months' worth of rain in 24 hours, resulting in surface flooding across much of the low-lying district of South Dunedin.
Flooding is scary because you don't know where it's going to stop.
As greenhouse gas emissions from human activity contribute to warming of the Earth's atmosphere, weather patterns around the world are changing. Despite being separated by thousands of miles of ocean, Chile and New Zealand are facing similar challenges as their changing climates result in weather events that are becoming more frequent and more extreme.
And the problem with climate change is that for every 1 degree of warming that we have in the atmosphere, we can hold about 7% more water. And that means that when it starts to rain, we dump out that 7% more water for that 1 degree more. So the extreme events we get are more extreme than they were.
Unfortunately, most modern cities are not designed to cope with vast quantities of water. Impermeable roofs, roads and pavements all prevent water from soaking into the ground, and so the most densely populated parts of our planet rely on networks of drains to transport rainwater away as quickly as it falls. When rainfall exceeds the limits of these stormwater systems, cities inevitably flood, sometimes with catastrophic results.
Y en ese rato no se pudo detener mucho el agua. Yo vivo en una casa de 2 pisos y entró el agua al antijardín, entró barro, por afuera pasaban escombros, sillones, lavadoras, refrigeradores.
And often, the recovery period is as traumatic as the flood.
No teníamos botas para el barro, no teníamos anteojos para el polvo, no teníamos mascarilla para el polvo que se estaba circulando. No había comida tampoco, porque nadie sabía que esto iba a pasar, por lo tanto nadie tenía mercadería guardada.
For a lot of renters, their landlords didn't come up with any insurance, so people lost everything. These are people who had no resource to set themselves up again, and things were very bad for them.
So what can be done to minimise the risk and help vulnerable communities prepare for and cope with flooding in the future? The first step is studying the climate, weather and landscape so that we can understand when and how extreme rainfall events are likely to result in flooding in different areas.
Hay que entender bien los fenómenos de lo que ocurre. A pesar de que nos vamos secando, que va a llover menos, la inundación se produce cuando llueve mucho en poco tiempo. Históricamente en Chile ha llovido con una temperatura medianamente baja. Cuando ocurre eso, la zona, cuando uno detecta la altura sobre la cual nieva y bajo la cual llueve, esa línea está relativamente baja. Cuando llueve y hace mayor calor, esta línea sobre la cual hay nieve y bajo la cual hay agua líquida pasa a estar más alta. Al estar más alto, el área que contribuye a caudal aumenta. Entonces, esta mayor área que contribuye a caudal nos genera inundación.
So the problem in South Dunedin is that it's a very low-lying, flat area that's close to sea level and it has very shallow groundwater. So there's only about a metre's worth of ground that can absorb the rain before it starts flowing out across the surface. We monitor that with a series of boreholes in the ground and some pressure transducers that record the water level every 10 minutes or 15 minutes, depending on how we've set them. And we can see how responsive different areas in the city are to rainfall.
Once we understand the urban environment, we can start developing initiatives to try and minimise the risk of flooding in the future.
So clearly the city having a good stormwater network is fundamentally important. And a lot of work's been done to improve the network. Ultimately though, as sea level rise comes further, we have to start thinking about other solutions around whether we need to store the water locally, to hump and hollow the ground, or to change the design of our streets so that the water's not shedding off the streets and into the properties.
Uno podría hacer las plazas de las ciudades en zonas más bajas que puedan drenar. Entonces, cosa que el agua, cuando se empieza a inundar algo, se empieza a inundar no solo digo el borde del río, sino tal vez en otros lugares de las plazas. Si uno le bajara la cota a las plazas, lo que se va a inundar en la masa. Funciona como un mini embalse momentáneo y eso sí creo que es atractivo.
Around the world, city planners are taking inspiration from nature to replace or integrate traditional concrete and steel with living green solutions for urban water management. In China, over 250 sponge cities have been built and adapted to absorb and use water rather than transport it away. Similar concepts are also at work in Berlin, Germany, where the district of Rimmelberg has been constructed without conventional drains. Rainwater is instead absorbed by green walls and roofs, and excess runoff transported through vegetated channels called swales. These absorb water while slowing down its flow, reducing peak runoff and enabling contaminants to be filtered out as stormwater soaks into the soil. Meanwhile, the Australian city of Melbourne has drastically changed the way it manages water after it experienced a 13-year drought followed by multiple flash floods. Pavements and roads have been replaced with permeable alternatives, while numerous tree pits and rain gardens have been planted to help absorb rainwater in places where it was previously transported as quickly as possible out of the city. Stormwater is collected in parks and wetlands where vegetation and microorganisms clean the water, enabling it to be stored for later use. This source for irrigation takes some pressure off the city water supply in times of drought and reduces the amount of contaminated runoff from the city during periods of rain. As an added bonus, evaporation from all the additional vegetation helps keep the city cooler in hot weather, leading to more pleasant living conditions and reduced energy costs. Unfortunately, the transition from grey to green infrastructure is not a one-size-fits-all solution, and some initiatives that work well in one place may not be practical elsewhere.
Los techos verdes y cosas de ese estilo son opciones muy atractivas, pero hay que entender la realidad local. Si tengo un techo verde, en la práctica tengo una mini piscina con tierra o suelo y con vegetación sobre mi cabeza. Eso tiene que estar muy bien impermeabilizado. En Chile hay grandes problemas de impermeabilización de obras que no tienen techos verdes. De hecho, es como de los grandes problemas de postventa en la construcción, el agua.
Around the world, flooding and other natural disasters have a disproportionately high impact on low-income communities, where people are already struggling with poverty, poor infrastructure, and other social issues. In such cases, efforts to adapt to climate change provide an opportunity for city planners to find solutions that will address multiple problems at the same time.
As we've got into this process, we've realised that it's going to be quite complicated. It's going to be multi-generational and multidisciplinary. We need to reduce the flood risk, deal with climate change, and we also need to figure out sort of some of the entrenched housing and poverty issues that we know have been here a long time.
One of the biggest challenges is finding a balance between what will work to reduce flooding potential and what can be accommodated by the communities at risk.
Las soluciones que dieron el gobierno en ese momento fue se van de acá, es un lugar que no se puede vivir. Y la gente hizo protestas, se quemaron neumáticos, se cortaron calles, como para obtener mejor respuesta, y al final no pasó nada. Y luego de eso volvieron a ensanchar el el río está ya prácticamente al triple doble. Y eso fue lo único las medidas que se tomaron después de eso.
There's a lot of anger because it builds on a community that feels itself to have been ignored and disrespected for generations. And I have to say the DCC has really come to the party with that. They know, as we do, that this community is going to be affected by climate change, and they know that the community has to be involved in that.
Possibilities are kind of endless, and the question is, what's the most effective here in reducing flood risk? What's the community up for? How much does it cost? What's your bang for your buck? And ultimately, sort of, what can we do that we know is guaranteed to work? The problem with climate change is that you don't know when things are going to happen. You have a good scientific understanding of what's likely to happen, but you don't know when. So the way that the planning approach is done now is called a dynamic adaptive pathways. We agree in advance of the things we don't want to happen, or when they happen, we will do these three things. Then it doesn't matter when they happen, but when they do, we'll be ready.
Básicamente uno tiene que estar preparado cada vez que vaya a chispear o que haya tormenta eléctrica.
It's not easy, it's a tricky problem, but you know, we've got good brains in this city and I think we did well.
Well done, guys. That was excellent. Let's see. I don't see Jenny. Are you out there as well? I don't see you in the participant list. I guess not. Really excellent job, guys. Valeria and William, can you tell us a little bit more about you know, kind of the process that you guys went through to put this film together? How your initial ideas kind of merged into an amazing film production of for your project?
Yeah, well, at the beginning we discussed like what topic we want to address, what issue we wanted to address, and then we came up with this idea of flooding, and then we started doing some interviews in New Zealand and in Chile. Unfortunately, in Chile we couldn't do interview face to face. So we had to do it by Zoom. Yeah. Yeah. Valeria, I don't know, want to say something?
Well, we knew we had to interview people because it was very important for us to involve community, know the experience of these people that have been suffered this disaster. And that was a little bit difficult. More here in Chile, we are in quarantine. So I sent a lot of emails. I asked some friends. It wasn't easy, but we make it. And Jenny make a really great job putting all together and doing that amazing film.
Excellent. Yeah. This is thanks to Jenny. The video is she made an amazing job. Yeah.
That's great.
It's a shame that she's not here. Yeah. So.
I agree. I think you know, it's a shame she couldn't be here. It was great to see her video and the work that you guys collaboratively done together on this. So really well done. Congratulations. I really like how you interweave those personal stories with the scientific basis, and it really comes together quite nicely. So well done. Okay, I don't see any other questions here in the chat. We'll move on to our next group, consisting of Andrea via Vicencio. I'm sorry, Andrea, I didn't pronounce your name quite right. Fox Mayer, based in New Zealand, and Rodrigo Calderon, a Chilean also based in New Zealand in Christchurch. Can you guys unmute yourselves and introduce yourselves better than I did?
Hello, everybody. I am Rodrigo. I'm based in Christchurch, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Canterbury. I'm with the rest of the team, Andrea Villavicencio, which is who is on vacations right now, taking signal. Yeah, hello, Andrea. And Fox Mayer, who's returning from a field trip or work recently. We are being working in the topic of wildfires. We started to discuss this time ago in the field trip, in the Winds of Change field trip, and we decided to take a topic which combined the climate change adaptation problem in a global problem and the disaster risk management, how humanity can adapt to this climate change. So the topic of wildfires was really interesting because most of the problem is just focused on the relation of the urban areas with wild areas. So for us was really interesting, and and we prepared as output. First, we decided to create a report, like a literature review, and our topic now is our main product is a series of infographics, 3 infographics that we want to present to you right now, but through a video. So that's the next part of the presentation. You, Philippa, can put the video, it would be great. Thank you.
Fire has followed humankind for as long as we can remember. But as our climate warms and dries, rates of wildfires are on the rise in both New Zealand and Chile. With such similar climates, these 2 countries make for apt comparison when developing strategies to fight against fire. We believe that when given the right tools, you will have the ability to protect your community from the risks posed by wildfire. So to help you with this, we've compiled a list of 150 research papers on fires from both countries. We've also supplied you with 3 posters detailing the risks, management, and successful stories of both countries when it comes to wildfire. We can't control the temperature and we can't control the wind, but we can control how much fuel we give these fires. Non-native pine trees, like the ones behind me, are some of the best sources of fuel for massive fires in both countries. So like many other factors, strategies for how to deal with them in one country likely apply to the other. If we can learn from each other's mistakes and successes, we can find the best strategy moving forward for both countries. And if you have any questions at all, we urge you to take advantage of the winds of change. Right, so that video, the idea here is that we have these 3 infographics that we can distribute to communities alongside the video that you've just seen. And the video that you've just seen is a bit of a just an explanation for the people who receive this package of information. So next, Philippa, if you would, we have our presentation of the 3 infographics that would accompany that intro video.
We're just pulling it up now. Bear with us.
Just give me a minute.
Yeah, no worries.
Can you see that, Fox? Is that what you're, is that what you'd like to show first?
This should be the one. Have you received the longer video that presents?
Oh, we have. Sorry, I thought you said you wanted the infographic.
Oh, sorry, no. The video is video of the infographic.
Okay, right. Hang on a moment.
Thanks.
Let's see. There we go.
Hi everyone, I am Andrea Villavicencio and I'm going to talk to you about the relation between bushfires and climate change. But we're going to start before that because our activities are super important in this topic. The energy we use, the industry, the land uses, and other economic activities are increasing the emissions on our planet, causing the greenhouse effect, warming our planet and causing climate change since the last 100 years. And the main impact of climate change is the water cycle disturbance because the local communities are affected by this because of the extreme climatic events like floods, tornadoes, heat waves, drought, and bushfires with great impacts in biodiversity and the people's lives. And the risk is projected to increase for the next decades. So it's important to care about it too. And climate change is also increasing bushfires because bushfires needs 4 conditions that are given by climate change and human activities because of the low humidity, strong winds, and higher temperatures, and ample fuel material given by exotic plantations are causing extreme fire events more frequent, longer, and larger in area burned with more economic and social impacts in local communities because of the losses of lives and personal properties and environmental features like emissions. And this is why the cycle restarts because the emissions of bushfires are contributing to climate change. So my co-worker is going to explain you more about bushfires in the second poster. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. On to this second poster. The point of this one is to show that although wildfires have existed forever, when humans arrive in both of these countries, wildfires begin to change for the more dangerous. We see with the arrival of the first humans that forest cover retreats and rates of wildfire or rates of fire in general are increased right from the very beginning, even before anything like industrialization. But when we move to industrialization, when humans start to interact with their environment in a more significant way, we see that the replacement of native forest, which is logged for timber or for industry, with exotic forest corresponds with a big jump in fire. We know that exotic plantations represent a small percentage of total forest, but they represent a much larger percentage of total burned land. So this is beginning to sow the seeds for a dangerous environment where wildfires are more likely. And as time progresses, we get to this sort of tipping point where there's enough burnable material, there's enough vulnerability to wildfire in these areas that wildfires become more common. And as they become more common, they sort of create the environment that would contribute to future wildfires. And it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous for humans, and it's very dangerous for anything that lives in these areas. And one of the most dangerous areas that we see at risk today is this urban wild interface, so sort of the fringe of big cities. And in Chile, it's inhabited by people mostly in poverty who have a lot to lose in terms of wildfire. It's everything they own, and it's not a community that has the resources to necessarily invest in wildfire prevention strategies, but they are the most damaged by those wildfires. In New Zealand, the story is a little bit different. This area is inhabited by people sort of getting away from it all, from the city. There's some holiday homes, some farms. And in this area, newcomers tend to not really know what the strategies are to prevent wildfires. So they're at risk of sort of ignorance, but this can be targeted by education programs. So we've seen extreme fire events increase as a result of this timeline of the way that humans have interacted with their environment and sort of promoted wildfire risk environments. Since 1970 in Chile, there's been almost a 60% increase in fire. There's been a doubling in the extension of burned area. The fire season has stretched. In New Zealand, we see a similar story. The burned area has almost doubled, which is massive, though most of that is on the South Island. That's where fires have been spreading at a higher rate, though most of the fires were in the North Island. And again, we know that between these two countries, there are certain areas that are more similar than other areas. But overall, the timeline of fire lines up for both countries, and it's important for us to share this poster as sort of context to say that
yes, wildfires have always existed, but if you look at the numbers, their rise and their spread has correlated almost exactly with the rise and spread of humans and the way that we interact with our environment. So on the third poster, we'll go over to Rodrigo and he'll tell us a bit about what we can do in the future.
Thank you, Fox. In the third infographic, we can find what we detected as a potential direct collaboration between New Zealand and Chile in the facing of wildfires. Also, some urgent aspects for developing risk management strategies in both countries' contexts. The first part is a comparative organizational role regarding scientific research, available monitoring systems, and emergency response. For scientific research, two central institutions are leading. In the case of New Zealand, since 2018, is a Crown Research Institute called SCIEN. In Chile, the Center for Climate and Resilience Research is currently leading, which is a university-based organization funded by the Chilean government in 2013. Each country has its monitoring system. In New Zealand, it's an automatic fire weather monitoring system since 2002. On the other hand, Chile comes with a semi-automated system running since 1993 called Wildfire Forecast System, also known as Kitral, which means fire in Mapudungun, the Mapuche language. In terms of emergency response, New Zealand has recently created the Fire and Emergency New Zealand, combining multiple organizations and civil defense since 2017. In Chile, numerous organizations work historically in coordination, including the National Emergency Office, the National Forest Corporation, and local firefighters companies, which are volunteers. Some aspects of the development of risk management strategies for those countries are improving our understanding of the wildland-urban interface. Those areas are the most prone to host wildfire disasters. And also, a starting point in the management for both countries is removing wilding pines. Hopefully, these presented infographics will help in the engagement and collaboration between New Zealand and Chile in both climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction. Thank you.
Well, after this video, is just an explanation about the three infographics that we prepare. But basically, our idea is try to provide three kind of products. First is a report, which is based all this information in the infographics, but it's more like an academic report. So if the people want to read more and get deep in the topic and using the references as well, can read that report. It's really easy to read. It's really short and with a lot of information compressed there. And the infographic, which is more, I don't know, more for the public audience. And this engagement video that folks prepare in the nature of the wilding pines. So that's basically our project. Thank you.
Nice work, guys. Excellent. Any questions from the audience? Again, you can please put them in the chat. Andrea, can you hear us from? How is your connection from Chile?
Hi, yes, I hear you. I hope you hear me well. That's why I didn't speak, but I hope you like it, the project. It was fun to know our group and know all the topic of bushfires is a huge topic with great impact in both countries. So I hope you like it, and I hope that it like sirva to all the people in both countries. Thank you.
No, absolutely. No, it does a great job at doing that. Well done, Andrea, and thanks Fox and Rodrigo as well. We're going to move on to our next group. Our next group consists of Madison Seymour. Madison's actually based at the University of Otago here in Dunedin, along with Danielle. Danielle is a PhD student in the Department of Zoology. And joining us from Chile is Paula Ruiz. And they're presenting a project that's focused on diversity and of resilient agriculture. And so they have a handful of different media types that they're going to show. So we'll work with them to present those, but if they can unmute and introduce themselves, I'd be grateful.
Kia ora koutou. So yeah, Paula and Danielle are here with me as well. And the way we're going to present to you guys today is through a PowerPoint to start with. And then we will show you the short 3-minute video clip that we produced. And then Danielle will provide some reflections after that video as well. So
Awesome.
Philip, if you could pull up that PowerPoint, that would be
Madison, just on that, and for the others who have got a similar thing, it's probably easier if you share the PowerPoint and just tell us when you want to kick off the video, just because otherwise we'll have what we had with the last group going back into the folder to try and find your PowerPoint.
Do you have it handy, Madison?
Is that easy or not? If you don't, we can do it. It's no problem. But
I can get it in like a few seconds. Hang on.
That'd be brilliant. We'll just try and make it a little bit more seamless for you.
Great. Thanks, Madison.
Perfect. All right. Okay, so yeah, our topic was looking at diversity for resilient agriculture. And so we're 3 students who came from quite different backgrounds. So I personally am from an arts background. I'm in geography, and my speciality is looking at how people relate to the environment and how we can look at humans and how they fit within environmental issues. Paula, if she wants to explain it further later, is based in ocean ecology, and so she does some really, really cool stuff there. And Danielle does freshwater ecology, working in freshwater systems here in New Zealand for his PhD. So we came from really different backgrounds. So when we were sort of given these questions for our Winds of Change project, we sort of took a while to figure out exactly what it is that we wanted to do that sort of brought all of these ideas together. So obviously you guys will know, for the people who are new to the Zoom today, these were sort of like the questions that we were given as a brief for our project, which included picking one sort of environmental consequence of climate change, looking at what people are doing at the moment to help mitigate and adapt to that consequence, but then also looking for some really awesome solutions of people who are working sort of, or pushing the boundaries of how we can fix these kind of ideas. And so the problems that we decided to focus on was something that or 2 different problems to start with, and we decided to bring them together. So the first one was we wanted to focus around this idea of how we produce food. And so that's sort of where my background comes in. A lot of my work for my thesis looks at agri-food systems and how they need to change. So we identified this problem around how we need to produce food and how that's actually going to become harder in the context of climate change because of changing climatic conditions, but then also changing economic contexts. You know, the market for different food products is changing because of climate change and food trends towards vegetarianism or veganism occurring. And so that actually changes the economic context within which farmers are producing food as well. And then that links then also with the social pressures of how farming has a reduced social license because of the ongoing environmental impacts of producing food and how that is becoming, or the public are becoming more aware of that. The second problem that we focused on was this massive issue around biodiversity loss. So we all know that we are in a biodiversity sort of extinction phase at the moment, which is terrifying if we think about it in any sort of extent. But so the problem was that land use change from agriculture is a key contributor to this, but then also climate change is sort of compounding these impacts on local biodiversity, flora and fauna. So we decided to bring sort of these 2 problems together. And as such, our aim is we decided to look at the way in which Chile and New Zealand are facing these problems, but particularly in how they're looking to create agricultural resilience. And we wanted to have a broad sort of definition of resilience. So we're not just looking at physical landscapes, but also social and economic landscapes, because unless farmers can make profit from producing food, and we can ensure that there's farmer well-being in this process of food production, then those our agri-food systems are not going to be resilient to any of those changing economic and social contexts, or to climate change itself. And so we wanted to look at how restoring and protecting biodiversity in particular could be sort of this pathway to creating agricultural resistance in all of these contexts. So now I'll hand it over to Paula, who will talk about some of the solutions that we focused on and what we produced.
Okay, hello everyone. So after all this background that we researched before about the problems that we identified, so we found that we have these two problems. So we have to focus in the ecology, on the healthy ecosystems, and after that we also have to focus in people, agriculture, food. And so the areas that we researched was about agroecology, that you will know more about it in the video. That is basically use the land to wild areas and as well for agriculture in a heterogeneous land, and regenerative agriculture, that is basically in New Zealand, and other conservation initiatives in both countries for different organizations. And the outputs was the general public engagement, because we really want that people, just children, people that doesn't have any background of agriculture, and also scientists know more about this topic. Also try to teach this topic in the schools as well, and provide counter to negative narratives around agriculture and farmers. And the last thing is highlight the importance of biodiversity in combating the climate change. That climate change is the big issue for both, for the agriculture and the ecosystems. Madison, keep going, please. Thank you. So our final product, the main product was 2 videos. The first one is in English and the second one is in Spanish, because we know that here in Chile, there's a lot of people that doesn't speak English. So we think that is the better way to share our knowledge to all people in both countries. And we have as well the research report, that is all the background that we use and we research for create these 2 videos. So after this, we're going to show you the video in English. So
Philippa, if you could show that video now.
We hope you like it.
This is a story about 2 countries and some of the biggest challenges of our time. New Zealand and Chile are far apart, but they have a lot in common. They have incredible landscapes and large agricultural economies. But unfortunately, they both also have a lot of threatened biodiversity. Human life is supported by biodiversity. Everything we have comes from it. But current agricultural practices have intensified production, and climate change is causing more extreme weather. This is bad for biodiversity and ecosystem health, making it harder for our farmers to grow food. So how do we become more resilient? Well, one way is to try and restore biodiversity, which New Zealand and Chile have done quite differently. In New Zealand, a land-sparing approach is common. Intensive farming and conservation are designated into separate spaces. For example, the QE2 National Trust works with farmers to set aside small parts of land for reforestation. In contrast, Chilean agriculture has traditional land sharing approaches, which favour conservation and farming in the same space. Known as agroecology, it has strong links with indigenous agriculture that became popularised in the early 1980s. But while some small farms use agroecology, most large farms continue to use harmful industrial practices. So, despite these two countries' different approaches, biodiversity continues to plummet in both places. With a changing climate, we need diversity. Both land sparing and land sharing are crucial for biodiversity, but we also need farms that have a greater economic and social resilience. Farms of the future must be able to deal with changes that will happen in our societies and ecosystems as they adapt to climate change. And, luckily for us, there are already some pioneering people doing just that. In New Zealand, one example is Quorum Sense. Quorum Sense is providing grassroots education and support on how to farm regeneratively with biodiversity, while also creating better outcomes for farmers' profit and well-being. In Chile, the Education and Technology Centre is an NGO that since the 1980s has been promoting agroecological practices amongst small farmers, enhancing their self-sufficiency and food sustainability. Whether it's big organisations or small-scale farms, creating a healthy future is a team effort. Countries like Chile and New Zealand can learn from each other, and diversity is a tool against climate change that will be key to improving food security and saving biodiversity so we can tackle the world's challenges together. The key is that diversity equals resilience.
Nice. Has been a very nice video, no? Thank you, everybody. How last reflection about our work has been good to say the concept diversity equal resilience is very powerful to share with people. It's not because just the biodiversity, also the people diversity, the cultural diversity. So share and make more deep the idea that diversity is equal resilient is very powerful and necessary to current problems in the humanity. Another thing very good to say about our work is how we need to put together biodiversity loss with land use change, and climate change, because has been shown how a lot of enterprise has blame of biodiversity loss to climate change and not land use change. So it's like in this moment, a lot of enterprises are avoiding their own responsibility about biodiversity loss, because any kind of land biodiversity loss is like, I know it's blame of climate change. I don't have nothing to do here. But we need to work with both contact together to understand which biodiversity loss is blame of climate change or blame of land use change. And another interesting topic to talk about this has been some problems about how farmers with this concept of agroecology has been a lot of problem to that kind of people, because in this moment the farmers have the problem to share the land with biodiversity, not the cities, are the farmers. So how farmers have a relationship with biodiversity is very important, and in this moment has been shown how some farmers have problems with biodiversity because predators are eating their chickens, their goat, or birds are eating their fruit. So to us, it's easy to ask for them like, conserve biodiversity, share your land with biodiversity. But we need to understand that and work in this kind of thing together. For example, some solution to solve that kind of problem has been the state paying for any loss to any farmer for any loss produced for biodiversity, but has been shown also how that kind of solution has not been too good, because develop some resentment from farmers to biodiversity, because farmers start to have some kind of angry against biodiversity, against some species. So there is a lot of open question in this moment to about agroecology, land use change, biodiversity loss, climate change. So this kind of work will be very useful to impact in this kind of problem and continue researching together. So to finalize, we wanna share this slide with some link to the current organization working in agroecology in New Zealand and Chile. And just say thank you everybody for the help, for the support, and thank you for the opportunity. I am listening claps. Yeah, very old.
Excellent. Well done, Danielle, Madison, and Paola. It was really nice mixture of different media formats. We're running a little bit behind, and so I want to get to the next group. But before I do, I think to our guests and to our participants, you can see that we just have our groups presenting in a really diverse kind of array of formats. And so what we're going to do is assemble a lot of these documents and movies and other forms of media together on a website so we can continue to showcase our participants. And so we know how to get in touch with all of you now, and we'll let you know when all of that is compiled. So you'll be able to access those documents, videos, etc. So really nicely done, really nice mixture of presentation forms. So great job, guys. Okay. I'm going to move on to our next group, consisting of Kevin Basoa, based in Chile, Lauren Turner, based at Massey University in New Zealand, and Mauricio Saravia, based actually here in Dunedin at the Otago Polytechnic University. So Mauricio, Lauren, Kevin, please unmute, introduce yourselves, and let us know what you guys focused on for your project work.
Hey everyone. So I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm Kevin Basoa from Chile. I'm a master's student. I finished the master in meteorology and climatology in the University of Chile. And the rest of the group, the floor is yours.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently based in Hawke's Bay.
I don't know if Mauricio is there.
I'm here, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Well, my name is Mauricio Saravia. I'm a constructor engineer from Chile, and I'm studying sustainable practices here in New Zealand at Otago Polytechnic.
So we have a short video that show our work that we chose in this for the product of the Winds of Change, a product that is going to be in the social media of the Winds of Change program. So we can see the video and comment of that at the end of that.
Give us 1 second, everyone. We're just volume on the.
No,
it's full.
Yeah, and it should be automatic.
Let's try again. Start from the beginning. Oh, it's down. It's volume.
We can do the other version without subtitles potentially.
Okay.
I'm just going to stop sharing.
Give us 1 second, everyone.
If you guys want to have a wee chat a bit further, that would be great. We'll find another one for you. We may have to do that.
I can share the video, so.
Oh, okay. If you can, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, if you can.
We'll stop sharing.
Do that instead.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank
Please
you.
do.
Sorry about
that. Sharing from YouTube, Kevin, if you want.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
Sorry, I was mute. You can see the video? Can you hear it?
No sound.
No sound.
Let me share the how you share the.
Let's try that. Just play it on our end.
Hi, it's Jeff here from eConferencing. Do you want to share the sound for that video? Yeah, if you go to the top of your screen where you've got the options for Zoom, and you go across and there'll be a more option, and then down in there there'll be an option to share computer sound.
Oh, okay. Now?
Energy generation.
Yes, that's great. Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
For decades, human actions such as non-renewable energy generation and unsustainable farming have resulted in the accelerating release of greenhouse gases. Nowadays, thanks to the hard work of scientists, technicians, and citizens alike, we have been able to create ways to generate clean fuels and minimise the environmental impact of current industrial practices. Biogas is one such example of this. Derived from sources including waste from agricultural livestock, this naturally occurring fuel is being harnessed around the world to supply energy, heat, and fuels at various scales. In New Zealand, biogas serves as a readily available way for individual farmers to reduce emissions and manage waste using simple measures. In Chile, large-scale technology has made it efficient enough to replace fossil fuels in the national energy network. For our Winds of Change project, we put together an infographic to introduce a general audience to biogas. Drawing on the latest news, literature, and engaging with those involved in the industry, we offer a real insight into the ways this technology is being used in Chile and New Zealand. Recognising the role of social media as a site of activism and information sharing, this infographic was designed specifically for Instagram, a popular and accessible image sharing app. Through this, we would hope to educate people on the various climate solutions that exist between these two countries and shed light on those working hard to solve the most pressing global challenge of our time.
So, like I said, it's a short video, but we have several. I have the opportunity to share, so I'm going to share some infographics. I'm not going to show them all because we want to get in the social media of Wisdom Change and see the infographics there. So this is a key one that a key infographic that shows the GHG emission from Chile and New Zealand, and we do that. This is like an introduction of the methane emission that is come from in Chile and New Zealand, and we have information from how biogas is helping to reduce the GHG emission with the. It's not like a zero carbon emission, but you reduce methane to and you only emit CO2. And we also have the opportunity to talk with some expert in Chile that is in the INEA. It's a research center that cover all the agriculture in Chile, and they have a lot of collaborating working with New Zealand. So it's really good to see this project that Chile and New Zealand are doing together. So I think that the infographics are not up yet, but they are going to be in the Winds of Change media, and we encourage to see them and give them likes, share with your other contacts, and make the network bigger. And we also we are going to have these infographics in Spanish, so it goes both ways. I don't know if you have some question or remarks.
Well done, everyone. That's excellent. Can you tell us a little bit about the, you guys brought a lot of creativity to this project. The infographics look beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit about how they were put together and compiled?
Yeah, thank you so much, Laureen. It makes a great job about that.
Yeah, And so basically we worked on the research first. So we kind of split the research task up between the three of us. And then we kind of distilled our findings. So, you know, what we found was quite elaborate and quite complex. We tried to distill that down into quite, I guess, simple and digestible language to suit our target audience. And then created the infographics using Adobe Illustrator. And then the video that we presented this morning was made using Adobe Illustrator as well.
We can hear you guys.
Sorry about that. Just wanted to ask what your vision is for how are you going to essentially place this through, you're going to release this through Instagram, and just what your strategy is on how and when you're going to do that.
So the infographics are ready, so we can share it in our personal Instagram, and share it with all our contacts, and we can do it right away. But I think the best way is to share it with the main account in the Winds of Change program, the Instagram, so we can share this information and get the people to know the collaboration between Chile and New Zealand, and the similitudes between both countries.
Yeah. We appreciate that. I guess obviously all the projects that everyone's come up with will be uploaded onto the Winds of Change website. But we decided to do something specifically for Instagram as, I guess, you know, a high traffic site. So yeah, distribute on Instagram.
No, well done. It comes together so nicely. Really happy with what you guys have produced. So congratulations, really nice work. I don't see any questions here in the chat. So let's go ahead and take just a short 5-minute break. We're gonna resume at around 10:10 here in New Zealand. Around let's see, at 6:10 in Chile. So take a 5-minute break to stretch, and we'll be back with you soon.
No, voy a grabar yo. No, pero por si acaso, para que esté all preparado, all set up.
Papá, mira,
Ahora en
papá, mira
2 minutos.
lo que te hice.
Qué lindo, hijo.
El audio. Sentado en el sillón comiendo
Sorry.
un fideo con una fuente.
So we have here. We're on. Yeah. No, we're good. Yep, we're good. Yeah.
Good morning, New Zealand. Good afternoon, Chile. Kia ora, New Zealand. Mari Puche in Chile. My name is Francisco Barraza. I'm a lecturer in the University of Otago. I'm also one of the project leaders of the Wind of Change program. I can say I'm the Chilean part in New Zealand of the University of Otago and also the Wind of Change. And now we are going to continue with the presentation. We are going to talk now about the sea level rise, common issues and challenges for Chile and New Zealand. And the group is made by Brita, Daniel Antilev, and Richard Navarro. Please, can you introduce yourself?
Kia ora, morena and buenas tardes. My name is Britta. I'm based in New Zealand, and I'm a student of physics and of politics, philosophy, and economics. And in my group, we have Daniel Antilev and Richard Navarro. And together we've been working for the last few months on a project that's all about sea level rise and how it is being caused and is impacting Chile and New Zealand. And the things that we have got to share with you today is a video that explains some of our research, and we'll share that in a moment. And we've also produced alongside that a report, so a short magazine style report that condenses our research into something that should be easy to read and that you can read in Spanish and English, and that will be available alongside all of the other resources that are coming on the Winds of Change website. Before I pass over to Danielle to introduce the video in some more detail, I just wanted to say on behalf of our group a huge thank you to the Winds of Change organizing team for all of the hard work that you've put in, particularly in some very challenging circumstances. It's certainly been a very big learning experience for all of us, getting to know everyone else and challenging ourselves. We're really looking forward to continuing to be part of the network and seeing how it grows. So I'll pass over to Danielle and he will give you some more details to introduce our video, but hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Hola a todos. Kia ora, everyone. Yeah, the video we produce is kind of just summarizing our discoveries and trying to present this in an interactive way. So maybe will be some information that is lacking. So I will wanna say that we just explored the challenges for New Zealand and Chile. The future challenges for both countries are not explained in the video. And is part of our research explore how New Zealand and Chile are dealing with these climate change issues, especially with sea level rise. So we also got in touch with some organizations like Fundación Glaciares Chilenos, in English is Chilean Glaciers organization. Is an NGO, and probably they are not directly linked with sea level rise, but the thing is that there are many contributors and drivers to sea level rise. So deglaciation is one of the important points when it comes to sea level rise. And just introducing the video. I hope you enjoy this. We have put a lot of effort in all the stuff, put ourselves in a lot of pressure in hard work to get the thing done. So it's been a good time. It's been a stressing time for some of us also, but hope you enjoyed this video and the final product.
Chile and New Zealand are two countries in the southern hemisphere of the world and in the same latitude, sharing many geographical similarities. New Zealand is an island country in the southwestern Pacific Ocean. It consists of two main land masses, the North Island and the South Island, and more than 700 smaller islands. 10,000 kilometers at the other end of the Pacific Ocean, in the western South America, is the Republic of Chile. It occupies a long, narrow strip of land between the Andes to the east and the Pacific Ocean to the west. Both countries share common characteristics such as forests, mountain ranges, the Antarctica, and the most important, the Pacific Ocean. This makes the ocean a major player that either benefits or affects both countries. Sea level rise is therefore a threat and a challenge for both countries. But to what extent could sea level rise affect Chile and New Zealand? There are several studies that make projections of sea level rise under different scenarios between now and the year 2100. The projections made by IPCC and others can serve as a tool for governments and local councils to assess risk and make decisions for the future. The Chilean territory is classified in three main zones: Insular Chile, mainland Chile, and Antarctica. Mainland Chile is not a high-risk location due to its high-profile coastline. However, impacts from sea level rise are expected in areas such as cities, ports, and beaches. The major risks for cities will be floodings. Low-lying areas in cities like Concepcion could be flooded to a depth of 2 to 3 meters in a scenario of 60 centimeter rise in sea level. It is likely that the percentage of at-risk urban areas will increase due to population growth and real estate projects that are currently under development. Damage to heritage sites of high historical value is also anticipated. Changes in maritime climate conditions resulting from climate change has been affecting a number of ports throughout Chile. This can be measured simply by observing the availability of ports and downtime due to swell. The impact cannot be determined with certainty, given that as a result of their locations, some ports could improve their productivity while others could get worse. It is estimated that between Arica, the northernmost city of Chile, and the Chacao Canal, the beaches will experience average recession of 3 to 23 meters due to the effect of changes in waves and sea level, according to projected scenarios between 2026 and 2045. The estimated economic damage for 6 beaches in the Valparaíso region only is $500,000 a year due to the risk of erosion caused by climate change. Insular Chile is a scattered group of oceanic islands of volcanic origin located in the Chilean Sea, at some distance from mainland Chile and which are under the sovereignty of Chile. Rapa Nui, Archipelago, Robinson Crusoe are among the most vulnerable places in terms of natural disasters. According to studies carried out in 2011, Anaquena, Rapa Nui's main beach, is at great risk of suffering constant flooding by the end of the century in a scenario of 0.8 meter increase in sea level. Easter Island historical and cultural heritage could be affected, mainly the moais located on the coastline and cliffs at risk of erosion. It is estimated that the island ports and coves, which are generally for very small boats, will be subject to flooding during high tide, generating damage to coastal infrastructure.
Orongo is a very special site. It's the last part of our ancient culture, the last changes of the culture. It's in danger because it's right on the top of a cliff. As the ocean rises, there's more waves hitting. That bottom part of the cliff. And all the weight that you have on top of that is going to collapse, and it's going to bring down the site. That's a huge engineering thing that we need to design quickly to protect that.
And do you have the resources to do that?
We don't have the resources. It's millions and millions of US dollars.
In New Zealand, most of the population lives off the coast, and many of its cities are located in coastal areas. Climate change poses an increasing risk to these coastal areas, in particular because sea level rise increases their exposure to coastal hazards. This risk is further compounded by ongoing development in population growth in coastal areas, along with rising property values. The most likely scenarios for New Zealand are departure up or down on the global average because subsidence or tectonic movements, increased coastal erosion, salinization of adjacent fresh water, drainage problem in adjacent low-lying areas, coastal squeeze, coastal erosion, and permanent inundations, alteration in sediment movement, coastal upwelling of cooler-rich, nutrient-rich ocean waters, lowland river flooding, and deterioration of water quality. A 2015 study projects the damage that a sea level rise of 1.5 meters would cause to cities and public infrastructure. Cities like Auckland, Wellington, Dunedin, and so on will be affected in the roads infrastructure, homes, and railways. The logical question to pose here is what's causing the rise in the sea level, and if we go into more detail, we might realize that it's all connected. Small alteration here will be causing an adverse effect there, making this a complex problem to address. Human-induced climate change is directly linked to the amount of fossil fuels burned, aerosol releases, and land alterations from agriculture and deforestation. The beginning of the Industrial Revolution shows a major spike in temperature levels and adverse climate events. Before the Industrial Revolution, the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide was around 280 parts per million, but through the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas, humans have added carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. The concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now exceeds 400 parts per million, following an upward trend that needs to be stopped. Mountain glaciers account for a third of the sea level rise in the last 60 years. The glaciation in high mountains is a phenomenon that has been accelerating in recent decades. The shrinking and thinning of glaciers is not only a contributor to sea level rise, it is also a major threat to cryospheric ecosystem and communities. It is estimated that the loss of ice from Antarctic ice caps in glaciers will contribute to 6% of global sea level rise. Earth's climate has always been driven by the amount of incoming and outgoing energy. Without the influence of humans, the Earth has natural cycles that drive the climate. The major factors contributing to Earth's natural climate change are determined by the axial tilt Earth's orbit around the Sun, the output of energy from our Sun, the ocean natural cooling and warming cycles, and the constant variability in volcanic activity. Another factor to consider are the glacial advances and retreats that occurred throughout Earth history. Although the governments of Chile and New Zealand have in different ways taken measures to mitigate the future impacts of sea level rise, it is necessary to realize that it's not enough to prepare for an uncertain future. It is also necessary to be informed and work together. In Chile, organizations such as Fundación Glaciares Chilenos have done important work in raising awareness about the protection of the cryosphere for a healthy coexistence with the planet. The Chilean Antarctic Institute has played for years a fundamental role in scientific research that help us to solve complex questions and disseminating valuable information every month to educate the population on climate change issues. Finally, instances such as those provided by Winds of Change allow us to realize that we are not alone in working to tackle these common problems, that international collaboration is possible, and that language or culture are not a barrier when there is a will to create a better future.
Thank you. Thank you. You told us that you were stressed and you put a lot of energy on it. Thank you for all the stress. Thank you for all the energy that you put on it, because your video is brilliant. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. And I just want to remind to everyone that if someone have a question, some suggestion, comments, please you can put it in the chat. We have a little screen here that we can read it, and so we can pass your question. And like a group, how was this process, this collaboration between you, Britta, New Zealand, Chile, and how was the most biggest challenge for overcome and get this beautiful result? Do you have some comments about that?
I think the biggest challenge was finding one topic and focusing our efforts around that, and particularly something that we could all share an interest in, because we come from very different backgrounds. And for us, it was quite a new topic, so it was a lot of new research, but we eventually found our focus, and there was a lot of work and discussion that went into getting to that point.
Thank you.
Yeah. Another challenge, I think, was trying to coincide in our timing, because New Zealand time and Chilean time are so it's difficult, very difficult, but we made it.
Yeah, you made it. Beautiful. Thank you. Yes. When you told us about the timing, I saw in the screen a lot of head doing yes, and I agree with you. But natural problem or global problem like a climate change doesn't think in the time, doesn't have a watch. So we have to adapt to also the different time, not only the way that we communicate, not only the language, also the time that we have to work for. Together, how you put in the video, together we can climb, we can tackle this problem, because we are not alone. Okay, we are going to continue with the next group. Thank you for the video. And the next topic is forest and water. And now going to present Adele, Daniela Miranda, and Paula Yarur. Are you there? Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Daniela Miranda, and I am a sociologist from the University of Chile.
Hi, I am Paula Yarur, and I am a master's student of the School of Forestry at the University of Canterbury. And we have also Adele.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Adele. So I've just finished my master's in tourism management. And so for our video, we looked at water scarcity and specifically how that relates to forests and forestry in both New Zealand and Chile. So Philippa, if you could please play our film. Thank you.
Water is an important resource. We need water to drink, we need water to grow food, we need water to survive. But the climate crisis that we find ourselves in is threatening that very resource.
Humans have adapted themselves to date to a benign climate with some variation in it. With the increasing greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere, the whole process of change has started. Over the 20th and 21st century, we've been seeing quite significant changes in the atmosphere, and those have been accelerating more recently. And those changes have brought about a range of impacts on human habitation and also impacts on our natural environment. What we've basically been seeing is an increase in frequency of impacts and also an acceleration of some. That has huge impacts on the way we do things. First of all, in terms of the emissions that we put into the atmosphere and the need to reduce that load.
Sociedad o como conjunto a nivel global, hemos ido prácticamente
acelerando fundamentalmente cambios en el clima. Y esos cambios en el clima están llevando consecuencias importantes en que dinámicas de lo que son los ecosistemas naturales se están alterando a niveles en los cuales se están afectando nuestro día a día o nuestra, digamos, comunidades vegetales, la sociedad, aspectos industriales, aspectos productivos, aspectos ecológicos.
Aproximadamente el 71% de la superficie terrestre está cubierta de agua. Sin embargo, solo el 3% es agua dulce y la mayoría no está disponible para nuestro uso. Hoy en día, 1.100 millones de personas en el mundo carecen de acceso al agua. Y según el World Wildlife Fund, para el 2025, 2/3 de la población mundial podrían estar enfrentando escasez de agua. Chile y Nueva Zelanda, aunque están en lados opuestos del Océano Pacífico, enfrentan desafíos muy similares en lo que respecta al cambio climático, debido a sus características geográficas únicas.
The whole issue of scarcity of water is directly related to what's happening in the atmosphere with the warming. So you've got the impacts of increased temperatures and you've got the increase in variability of supply. And so when the variability of supply diminishes, you get droughts, and those droughts can be short, they can be long, and the impacts of those can be more or less severe depending where you are in the world.
Cambian las precipitaciones, entonces lugares donde no llovía o no llovía en ciertas temporadas, ahora está lloviendo de forma más intensa en ciertos periodos. Pero la variabilidad climática natural, ustedes le tienen que sumar la variabilidad climática antrópica, que es cómo cambian las precipitaciones debido a los gases de efecto invernadero. ¿Ya? Y eso ya en Chile tenemos cerca de un 30% y va a ir en aumento. Independiente de si se logra o no controlar, o sea, lo que pasa es que si es que no logramos controlar las emisiones, en el fondo esto va a ser peor, pero no va a ser mejor. Y el factor antrópico local es la sobreexplotación de los recursos hídricos. Es cómo manejamos las cuencas, cuáles son los usos que se dan, cómo se protege. Y lo que nos sucede en nuestro país, que tenemos un modelo institucional que lo que hace es fomentar la sobreexplotación de los recursos hídricos. No tenemos herramientas para proteger los ecosistemas, ni siquiera tenemos herramientas para proteger adecuadamente el consumo de agua prioritario para las personas, ¿no?
La escasez de agua presenta desafíos para los bosques nativos y exóticos en ambos países, así como para sus industrias forestales.
Lo que se prevé es que va a haber una situación en que los periodos secos van a ser más prolongados y las lluvias van a estar mucho más concentradas en los periodos invernales, lo cual genera una presión enorme, más fuerte aún, porque si la precipitación no cambia, pero tú la tienes más concentrada en invierno, lo que más afecta el crecimiento, las posibilidades de una especie de sostenerse en un ambiente es qué tan largo es el periodo seco, ¿ya? Y al mismo tiempo esos periodos secos probablemente en ambientes más andinos u otros van a generar también temperaturas más bajas, más críticas, que son generalmente las que definen la permanencia o digamos sustentabilidad o sostenibilidad, si lo quieren ver así, de una especie para poder sobrevivir en un ambiente determinado. Entonces, desde el punto de vista de los cambios, se ve que vienen procesos de esa naturaleza que pueden venir acompañados, además, con la mayor frecuencia de heladas, que son críticas para floración, por ejemplo, de especies, o que pueden dañar, por ejemplo, y eso ya, solamente con decirte eso, estamos hablando que puede afectar tanto bosques nativos, productividad agrícola, productividad, todo lo que está asociado con producción de flores, frutas, todo lo que está asociado a esa componente, y al mismo tiempo se pueden generar también mortalidades mayores en términos de lo que significa la regeneración natural o el establecimiento de plantas en forma artificial.
Water scarcity has an impact in terms of making our forests drier, making them more prone to fire, and that is tied up with the east coast of New Zealand particularly. Forests in that area will have added impacts. We also open ourselves up to more windborne or introduced pathogens or diseases.
Entonces, ¿cuáles son las soluciones para hacer frente a la escasez de agua?
well, if you go back up, what we call up the chain, is we can reduce emissions. And so that's the first thing. You go up the chain and say, well, what's causing the chain? And that's the emissions. So we can do stuff around that. The other thing that we can do is think very carefully about where our trees are, and firstly, what might be planted in the second and third cycle of replanting, and also where do we plant and what do we plant where for new plantations, okay? And in the Climate Commission's advice, we've suggested that we want real reductions in emissions that are permanent. And so the logic is that the permanence can be better assured by planting natives.
¿Qué tan importante son la política y la planificación en estos desafíos?
It's extremely important. If you think about increasing forestry up the East Coast and with increasing fire risk, if you get a fire through that land, that has a whole cascade of impacts which affect local enterprises, local communities, people's lives potentially. And those are the real issues that need to be addressed around the policy and planning. The critical bit is the implementation of the planning. So that we call that the practice. Has to be well aligned with the principles and policies and rules. And the councils need to get out there and make sure it happens.
Esta planificación también debe incluir a las comunidades afectadas.
Cuando uno habla de adaptación al cambio climático, lo que estás hablando es de transformar un territorio, ¿no? Y transformar una forma de vivir en ese territorio para poder adaptarte a las condiciones climáticas. ¿Cómo nos adaptamos frente a eso? Implica que tenemos que cambiar nuestras formas de vida. Y eso no se puede hacer desde los escritorios de Santiago. O sea, eso se tiene que hacer con las personas que viven en el territorio. Primero porque además conocen mejor los cambios de los territorios. El conocimiento que hay a nivel internacional, a nivel científico global, no va a tener una descripción detallada de lo que pasa en esos ecosistemas. Se requiere comprender qué sucede en ese ecosistema, y para eso está el conocimiento científico local, pero también está el conocimiento tradicional, los expertos locales, las comunidades rurales conocen mucho mejor los territorios que quienes vienen de afuera. Entonces tienes que incorporar ese conocimiento, que tampoco se hace, por supuesto, y además de eso tienes que involucrarlo en la toma de decisiones.
Además de contar con la política y la planificación correcta, las ideas innovadoras también son cruciales para combatir los desafíos de la escasez de agua. Una estrategia de adaptación innovadora que ya ha sido implementada por el Ayuntamiento de Christchurch en Nueva Zelanda es utilizar aguas residuales para regar bosques nativos y exóticos.
Agroecology is a small town in Banks Peninsula. It's a population of normally about 850 people, 830. It's also in an area of quite low rainfall, quite dry. The wastewater treatment plant Agroecology needs replacing. It's just at the end of its life. It needs a new one. The current location of the treatment plant is in a very historically and culturally sensitive area, so it's not an ideal place to build one. And in 2011, the council resolved to build a new plant at another site in town. The sticking point for the scheme has been where to send the treated wastewater after the plant. Historically, it's gone in the harbour. That area's got a lot of significance to Onuku Runanga, or the local Runanga who live in that area, and they've got ties to that area, so it's very significant to them. We've looked at a variety of options of alternatives to harbour outfall and landed on irrigation to land as opposed to just send it out pipe into the harbour. As part of that, we want to plant the area in native trees that we're going to irrigate because it has a number of benefits for irrigation compared to just grass. We can get more water in a smaller area effectively, which helps us along. So yeah, we'll be planting a minimum of 40 hectares of trees as part of the scheme, but we'll also plant the peripherals of the site, so it might end up being 50 or 60 hectares. In designing the scheme, we've tried to think about climate change, what could we do to give some positive aspects to the scheme rather than it just being a process to treat wastewater. So how can we bring in those other facets?
El cambio climático presenta muchos desafíos tanto para Chile como para Nueva Zelanda, pero con las políticas y la planificación adecuada, junto con las soluciones innovadoras, hay esperanza para el futuro.
I'm optimistic that people have started to change the way they're doing things. I think declaring climate emergency has been helpful because it then raises the question of, well, what are we going to do about it? And the what are we going to do about it is the action plans, but those plans have to be more than plans. They have to have actions that can be implemented. If people understand the seriousness of climate change, it will happen. But it'll only happen if the public demand that it happens.
Thank you. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. I really like the way that this big problem, you put it in a positive way, that we still have hope, and they are someone working on it, and we can help them. We can help the environment. So thank you for the video. It was really beautiful, and yeah, it's quite deep message. I want to remind to everyone that all the videos, magazine, infographic, report, presentation, all of them, we are going to put it in the webpage. So we are going to share with everyone. We are also, we are in LinkedIn, Instagram, what more? Oh.
I'm not sure, but there's a lot of resources in Spanish as well.
Yes.
So everything will be there. We haven't had time to share it all. So I just want to acknowledge the incredible work that the groups have done that you haven't actually seen today, but they will be made available.
Yeah. So thank you. And I have a question for you. And I was looking the landscape and the sceneries, and I didn't know really well it was Chile or was New Zealand. They are so similar. What do you think about the human response to this problem? They are also similar? No? Sorry?
What do you mean by the human response?
I don't know how the council are working, how the people are looking the problem. I don't know. I was listening to one of the interviewers, Anais Urquiza, and she said something like that. We cannot fix the problem from a desk in the capital city. We need to invite to everyone, especially the local authority. How do you feel about that?
So in the part of the edition, we took out a very crucial part that she explains how, but because of timing and the edition, there was a lot of things that had to come out. But I think Daniela can maybe explain better because of the sociology part of it. Maybe if you want.
Sure. Yes. Well, I think yes, Chile and New Zealand is pretty different because in New Zealand you have a completely different relationship with communities, and as Anais said, well, we need to change that. We need to put people first, and in Chile we have a really great opportunity right now, and we're changing our constitution, so that's our biggest opportunity. And well, we can change that because water is private here, and water, as she said, everything is managed from Santiago, and we're not listening to the local communities. We have a lot of fights with the local communities, and yeah, we have a great opportunity right now to move forward and, well, be closer to New Zealand in policy and solutions.
Yeah, great, thank you. Yeah, just I want to say that we were waiting in Chile more than 30 years for get a new constitution. So I hope we get a a good one. But Chile is in the process to, well, by the way, the constitution is the mother of law. So that also not only impact on human, also in how the human manage the nature. So thank you, and thank you for mentioning that, because it's a big political change that Chile is going to suffer, okay, in a good way. Okay, we are going to continue. Thank you. I want to thank you again for your video and your presentation. And the next group is the water hand desalination plants from freshwater supply. I'm going to present the group 5 is Daniel Cárcamo, Natalie Edwards, and Pamela Jordan. Could you introduce yourself, please, and also the project?
Good morning. Good morning in New Zealand. Buenas tardes en Chile. My name is Pamela Jordan, and together with Daniel Cárcamo and Natalia Edwards, we are pleased to present our research project, which relate that water crisis and with accelerated climate change and the desalination plant as a current tool to get it fresh water. So the video below show the content of our research, but putting in a magazine. So you show like an interactive magazine. So yeah, please, if Felipe, can you show us?
The water hunt. Desalination plants for fresh water supply. So, what is the water hunt? 71% of the planet's surface is water. Of that 71%, around 97.2% of it is ocean. That means that of all the water on Earth, only 2.5% of it is fresh. And of that 2.5%, we only have access to around 1%, which in other words means that roughly 1 in 3 people don't have access to clean drinking water. For New Zealand, the problem of water scarcity may sound close, but nothing like what Chile has experienced to the point of them starting to take water from the sea to supply basic human and industrial needs. The water hunt is the constant search for drinking water at the hands of desalination plants in the midst of a global water crisis. Water is a resource that is constantly used and abused, a resource that is running out and is being killed by human thirst. Water scarcity has given way to innovative technologies and projects to solve an ever-growing problem. This is how desalination plants were born in the 1800s. Desalination plants are now up and running in over 100 countries. Their main objective is simply to obtain water directly from the sea, remove the salt, and add minerals to make it ready for human consumption. There are 2 main types of desalination plant, thermal and membrane. Thermal desalination uses an artificial water cycle to make and collect vapor by heating up seawater. Membrane desalination uses reverse osmosis to remove salt and other particles from the water. This is the most used during the latest projects, as this technology emits less waste back into the sea. This is a comparative table showing the type of energy, processes, and names behind the 2 desalination plant methodologies. The emissions produced by desalination plants, such as metals, anti-scaling additives, and halogenated compounds, amongst others, fit the assessment criteria of environmental effects and the hydrology and water quality in relation with polluter sources. Integrated coastal management is a coastal management process for the management of the coast using an integrated approach, regarding all aspects of the coastal zone, including geographical and political boundaries, in an attempt to achieve sustainability. The concept of integrated coastal management includes direct and indirect impacts from 3 aspects: the environment, economics, and social. While desalination plants have been proven to be good for the economy, we cannot concede the integrity of the coast. The environmental impacts must be taken more seriously and assessed in a comprehensive manner. The framework of the ICM is great, but a more suitable model could be created fulfilling the 14 grouped criteria within 3 different aspects. The term pollution, commonly used in colloquial language, refers to the addition of any substance, solid, liquid or gas, or any form of energy such as heat, sound or radioactivity to the environment at a rate faster than it can be dispersed, diluted, decomposed, recycled or stored in harmless form. The type of pollution that comes out of desalination plants depends on which technique is used to desalinate the water. For plants located on the coast, water pollution is the main problem, whereas for inland plants, the disposal of rejected concentrated brine is the main factor of concern. Air pollution arises if the desalination plants use multi-flash system, which is a thermal type of desalination, as they burn large amounts of fuel to generate the necessary energy for desalinating water. The disposal of desalination effluents can be a problem for inland plants too. It can prevent them from absorbing water from soil, stop them from absorbing nutrients from the soil, and create changes in their cell structure. This brine produces changes in the marine ecosystem, causing plankton mortality, reduction of species such as fish and coral, as it changes the habitat and temperature of the waters where a unique and irrecoverable ecosystem develops. There are many countries around the world who have desalination plants and legislation to go along with them. Despite the growing installation of seawater desalination plants in Chile, there is no specific regulation applicable to this activity. There are currently 44 seawater desalination plants in different stages of implementation in Chile, of which 24 operate mainly in the north and the centre of the country. They produce 5,570 litres of water per second and are expected to reach a volume of 14,468 litres per second in the next 5 years. This water supplies various purposes such as human consumption and sanitation, industrial processes, mining, and agriculture. Right now, New Zealand has no regulation relating to seawater desalination per se, but they also don't have desalination plants on their coast. New Zealand has one main law that regulates all water use within the country, the Resource Management Act of 1991. This act sets out exactly what can be done with water in New Zealand, whether it's impounding, diverting or taking, as well as water discharges and pollutants. While New Zealand is not in the same boat as Chile when it comes to water scarcity, it may soon one day be reality. That's why investing in safe sources of water, such as seawater desalination and water recycling, can enable quick and affordable solutions, but with an adverse environmental impact that they need to be aware of. The truth is that there are entities that do want to look for solutions to those that already exist, such as the Eurocat Technology Centre in Spain, which coordinates the C4 Value project, whose aim is to convert a large part of that brine concentrate into valuable minerals, making them a sustainable ally of the planet. Along with Eurocat, there are other entities who are involved in desalination. Veolia Water is one of the world's leaders in desalination. They have plants in over 108 countries and produce around 15% of total desalinated water globally. They are committed to helping countries find the best solution for their water shortages by continuing their creation and exploration into desalination. From a sustainability perspective, a technological advance has been observed in desalination plants and the resources they use, such as renewable energies, new components to desalinate water, and the recovery of pollutants for the implementation of new projects that will continue to supply millions of people with drinking water. Even though there are so many desalination plants with considerable improvements to mitigate brine pollution and also pollutants from their high energy consumption, the pollution and the complexity of its waste treatment is still the Achilles heel of this innovative technology, generating damage to the marine and terrestrial ecosystem and being highly detrimental to the flora and fauna of our Earth. Although one of the main goals of the UN Sustainable Development Goals for most countries in the world by 2030 is to combat water scarcity, Desalination plants could be more sustainable if the technology focused on mitigating damage to the ecosystem, as there are other methods related to the reuse of grey water, which are undoubtedly part of the regenerative process for both the environment and society. In order to comply with the parameters promoted by the UN, such as maintaining special focus on oceans issues, New Zealand and Chile could work together as partner countries to support the priority goals in this area in order to obtain more effective results on the pollution of the Pacific Ocean that they both share. Considering that Chile and New Zealand share the Pacific Ocean, and after the differences and problems that afflict each country and according to their own regulations, it would be necessary to make international treaties that regulate and unify the legislative criteria to strictly control the number of desalination plants per country, as well as their technology, their location, and their operations, as well as waste management systems and environmental studies. It is important to highlight the personal, private, and NGO entities that carry out mitigation measures such as technological and scientific advances focused on improving desalination processes with low energy consumption and lower socio-environmental impacts. We need to understand that the sea, the ocean, and all their living beings are an ecosystem that provides resources to our entire planet, so it cannot be treated and seen as a hunting ground.
Yes, good video. Thank you. Thank you. Really good. I want to remind again, if someone have a question, please put it in the chat. We can read it and we can pass the question or comments or whatever do you want to post. Thank you. The video was amazing. And yeah, and it's really good. And I actually I'm going to want to see that again. So I'm going to the Wind of Change webpage, and I went to see the video again. So because there are a lot of useful information. I have a question for you. Why do you choose desalination plants like a topic for research in this program?
Mostly because desalination plants have a lot of contaminations, and this come back to the sea. So basically the brain that is the contamination should be a huge problem in a short future for increase or more than increase, maybe to apport or add a lot of contaminants for the climate change, accelerating, basically. So we know that New Zealand, it doesn't have this desalination plant yet, but it's an island, you know, so you don't know if sometime could be need one of these desalination plants. There are a lot of in Australia. We know that New Zealand and Australia share some things and have some agreements too, of course. But and we know that if we compare Australia with Chile, for example, have maybe more technology at this time. But we share with New Zealand and Chile the ocean, and that is the point. So I think that is a good reason, and also because we have a lot of this desalination plant in Chile, and we don't have a good regulation. We have more than 100 desalination plants around the world, and each country have their each legislation, and I think we need to throw out and make a huge legislation for everyone, for every country, to finally solve our problem related with the sea, with the contamination, with the climate change, work all together. That is the solution for us.
Great, thank you for your answer. It's really good because maybe the solution that we are looking for water could be bring more problems that we have with another issue.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I'm agree with you, and we need legislation. Yeah. We have a question for the public. So Jenny asks, I don't know if any salt-tolerant plants might have remediation potential for brine waste. And she also asks, is anyone looking at using salt-tolerant vegetation to help improve environment health at inland sites? Both questions are in the chat, so maybe if you want to think about, you can go to the chat.
Yeah, let me see.
By the way, thank you, Jenny, for your questions.
Any salt-tolerant plants may have remediation potential for brain waste. Well, the brain waste basically is damage to all the ocean. We know that the salt putting in the water is doing the water more salty, no? So basically, so there are some investigation related with that question. And we know that, let's say, Chilean people working with plants tolerant inside even so. Yeah, Valeria Gonzalez say that they are working on that, but some studies say that at this moment there is not plant working so good so far. I mean, it's more like a huge contaminant. But there are some solutions for the brine, like Agroecology, that they take all the brain and basically separate all the contaminants that mostly are minerals. So, and they use that and sell it. So that is a huge solution. And the next is a nanotechnology that is using in a membrane that is for the membrane, and also the another components the desalination plants needed to work. And that should be pretty good, I think so. More like a solution to the desalination plants. I have a lot of comments here.
Valeria, do you want to comment something more than the chat? Do you want to say something to us, or are you okay with the comment that you put in the chat?
This says, yeah, I also I put this we choose this topic because I used to work in mining, and we have a lot of, well, Chile works, the economy of Chile works through mining mostly, and Chile consumes a lot of water, fresh water from, first of all, from not from the sea, but now they are talking water from the sea, but not for me or for us. Should take the water from the sea should be to a basic consumption, no, basically for the people, but it's not that case in Chile. It's only at the moment, mostly for companies, huge company. So we think that we need another legislation, something that put in a framework what you can do and what you can't do to take the waters.
Yeah, I'm agree, Pamela. Thank you.
Yeah.
Muchas gracias. We have to go with the next group. So the topic is hydropower, renewable and sustainable. And the group is, we're going to present will be Benjamino Nostroza, Danilo Perez, and Julia Harvey. Are you there? Could you introduce yourself and also explain your project?
Benjamin's not here.
Okay.
Is Julia here?
Or Julia or Danilo?
Or Danilo? Danilo said he may not be able to make it, but we do have his video. If they're not there.
All right. I don't think they are. So we'll go ahead and play their video that they submitted.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here is the video. And if they are going to appear there, we are going to make some
Hydropower is an important renewable energy in the energy matrix of Chile and New Zealand. And here we aim to provide some pieces of information to open the discussion regarding its sustainability, as it is inherently linked to water availability, and so that influences rainfall, temperature, and wind patterns around the world, including Chile and New Zealand. It seems relevant to think how is these variations going to be on time. On a nutshell, Chile is getting dry, and New Zealand rainfall patterns are changing from the southwest coast of the South Island towards the northeast coast of the North Island, and that is definitely going to affect the hydroelectric potential of the South Island. So why are we linking energy and development? Well, it is a complex relationship, but basically energy access work as a boost for the GDP increase, and later on time, a higher GDP demands a better energy access. So in that sense, it seems curious that both Chile and New Zealand got to a virtual 100% energy access at around $20,000 of GDP. And both countries have, in terms of energy matrix, some similarities. We both have at around 50 to 6% of fossil fuel energies as a primary source of energy. The differences are that Chile has a higher variety of renewable energies, of biofuels, solar, wind, and also at around 20% of hydropower, whereas New Zealand has less variety of renewable energies, but the hydropower plays a more important role of about 30% of the overall energy matrix. So what's the role of hydropower within the energy matrix? Well, we need to acknowledge first that there is at least 3 basic types of hydropower plants. The first one is the runoff, where the river just passes through the turbines producing energy. Then we can divert that river to go through the turbines. But the most well-known type of hydropower plants are those that uses a dam. And because of the scale, they can be really, really big. So they can be used as a base load for the energy matrix. But the interesting thing is that as they can hold water, they effectively can store energy as potential energy in the water. And this allows decoupling power generation and the energy consumption. So if we think in a solar panel without any batteries to store the energy, we can only use the energy that is being produced at the exact moment. So both processes should happen simultaneously. What the storage method at the dam allows is then to store energy and use it when on demand. So what impacts does this kind of project have? Well, in the first place, it changes according to the technology or the type of project. And we also need to bear in mind that hydroelectricity and the environment impact each other in many ways. As I mentioned before, hydro is a very location-dependent technology. It depends on the water availability, among other factors. So the rainfall variations has to be considered from the design of the project. And even though this is not part of the environment, but is part of the broader context, environmental awareness of the society has an influential role on the policymakers and therefore the legal framework. An example of this is a big hydropower plant in Colombia in the US, where it was mandatory for the hydro plant not just to produce cheap energy, but also simultaneously protect the environment. And that changes the conception of the project since the beginning. So the most well-known examples of impacts of the hydro plants over the environment is, well, basically interrupting migratory path because we cut the rivers. When a dam is included in the project, it floods some area affecting the wildlife habitats and modifying the water table on the surrounding areas, affecting the whole area. And one impact that might not be immediately on the people's mind when thinking about hydro impact is the greenhouse gases emissions from the reservoir. This is effectively a huge anaerobic system. So any leaf or tree or organic matter that falls into the water sinks to the bottom and is going to be anaerobically break down to produce CO2 and methane that's going to be released into the environment. But on the other way, the environment also has impacts on the hydro plants. They can be classified as direct or indirect. The direct are basically related to snow melt and how much water are we going to have on a given period of time. But higher temperatures also play indirect impacts on the hydro projects because a higher temperature increases the evaporation. And even though we can maintain the yearly rainfall, total rainfall remaining the same, these changes on the rainfall patterns are going to put some stress on the agricultural irrigation system, and that creates a sort of competition for the water usage. Also, having a more intense rainfall event is going to change the water quality. A higher flow on the river is going to drag more particles that are going to erode the turbines, increasing the maintenance cost. And if you have suddenly too much water, you need to let go some water, and that without producing the energy that you need at the moment that you need. And that is going to affect the overall efficiency of the plant, and it's going to also increase risk of landslides and etc. And finally, the local regulations will also affect the hydropower development as the demands for sustainable development of the society are evolving. So to finish with, I just want to mention that the impacts of the hydropower scheme in our countries are paid for all of us. Therefore, we should get involved and have a say on how do we want this to evolve. And we all need to decide as a society if we want to pay the price and what is the fair price. Thank you.
Right.
Okay, if you have any question, any comment, say thank you. You can send me an email. I'm going to post my email in the chat. You can also send an email to Wind of Change email, so we can pass your message to the group. Okay, we're going to the last presentation. That is the topic is geothermal energy, and the group is. The group is Fernanda Navarro, Greg Hadley. He apologized, he had to do something quite urgent, and Paula Yanquileo, based in Chile. So please, Paula and Fernanda, could you introduce yourself and also present the project? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Francisco. Hi, everyone. I'm Paula Yanquileo Melgarejo, chemical engineering. I'm currently a PhD student at Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile. So our research, together with Fernanda and Greg, focuses on the potential of geothermal energy in Chile and in New Zealand. This type of energy has great potential due to the large number of volcanoes in both countries' geographic topography. This type of energy is used mainly at the residential level to heat homes, for example, where one of the biggest problems, for example, in south of Chile, is the use of firewood, which is why as part of the product obtained in our research is to write as a small opinion column, this. Small, oh, sorry. Small. Oh. I share by email. This column opinion is for chair and general public. Fernanda?
Yes. Hi, good morning and good afternoon to you in Chile. I'm Fernanda Navarro. I'm civil geological engineer from Universidad Católica de la Santísima Concepción in the city of Concepción in Chile. And I'm currently in New Zealand. So as Paula mentioned, geothermal energy has great potential in both countries. And the biggest drawback is the large initial investment if they are plants at in industrial level, but at the residential level is much more feasible. In countries like Iceland, Canada, Turkey, they have this type of energy, what they use a lot, mainly for heating, which contributes directly to lowering environmental pollution in rural areas where fiber is still used. Next, in our video, we also show the opportunity we have to interview people from the researcher center we can continue to contribute from Universidad de Chile, the Andean Center of Excellence in Geothermal, and from here in New Zealand from Auckland University.
Great, thank you. We are going to put the video now.
Thank you.
Air pollution consists of chemicals or particles in the atmosphere that pose serious health and environmental threats. But what causes air pollution, and what does it mean for our planet? Some air pollution comes from natural sources like volcanic eruptions, wildfires, or allergens. But most air pollution results from human activities, such as energy use and agriculture. There are different types of human-made air pollution. When we burn fossil fuels to produce energy, they release greenhouse gases into the air. These emissions, such as carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and fluorinated gases, trap heat from the sun in Earth's atmosphere, leading to a rise in global temperatures. This creates a cycle where air pollution contributes to climate change, and climate change creates higher temperatures. In turn, higher temperatures intensify some types of air pollution.
Condiciones geográficas, el aumento de la población y la calefacción artesanal son algunas de las causas que han convertido a la ciudad de Coyhaique, ubicada en la región de Aysén, en el sur de Chile, en el lugar más contaminado del continente.
Uno de los factores primordiales de la contaminación de esta ciudad se debe al tipo de calefacción que ellos utilizan. Ellos utilizan calefacción por leña y muchas veces la leña no es seca. Y cuando no es seca es mayor aún la contaminación por material particulado.
So, what alternatives are there for heating?
We have to know that 3 geothermal resources can be identified according to their temperatures. First, high temperature over 150 degrees. Water and steam are obtained at high pressures and can be used to generate electricity. Medium low temperature between 150 degrees and 30 degrees. It can be used for heating purposes and/or hot water electricity production, space industries and greenhouses and farms. Low temperature below 30 degrees is used for air conditioning, cooling and hot water for houses.
What is currently being done in both countries regarding this type of energy?
This is the second project we did in the Aysén region, the same region of the greenhouse. In this case, we went to the city of Coyhaique and used the water of an aquifer to exchange heat with a water-to-water heat pump and use it to heat a school. A small school where we replaced the previous heating method, which was burning wood inside the studying rooms. So we are very proud of this because the impact was a bit higher. This is part of the process We had to do some geophysics in order to search for the aquifer, and after that we did the drilling and installed the heat pump. This project had quite a bit of impact because it replaced the previous heating mechanism, which was burning wood inside the classrooms. So in this case, we are actually very proud of this project because it has a huge impact on the kids' health. Finally, I wanted to show you this project, which is quite interesting for us because we are searching for the possibility to generate electricity with a medium to high enthalpy reservoir, and also to generate thermal energy with in the process in order to heat a small town called Cuyuhuapi, located in southern Chile. The problem they have in this small town is the same one they have in many towns in southern Chile. They use wood to heat themselves. This is bad. It's bad for the forest and it's bad for the people's health. So we think the impact this project could have could be very high. So the way I see it, New Zealand and Chile, and southern Chile in particular, have very similar geological conditions and very similar climate conditions. So from the technical point of view, we will face similar difficulties. There are similar difficulties for the use of the thermal springs and for the implementing of geothermal heat pumps. I would hope that from the cooperation of both countries.
En Nueva Zelanda también están presentes proyectos similares. En 2011, el aeropuerto de Christchurch, que se estima que atiende a 6 millones de pasajeros al año, contrató la instalación de una bomba de calor geotérmica para un sistema de calefacción y refrigeración. Este sistema enfría con éxito y en su mayor parte calienta el aeropuerto. Esto ha resultado en una disminución del 20% en el consumo de energía. Por otro lado, en Wanaka, Nueva Zelanda, una casa familiar construida en 2008 está siendo calentada actualmente por 2 sistemas separados instalados por la compañía Next Energy Limitada. Uno que suministra calefacción por suelo radiante, calentando la casa, y otro que suministra agua caliente. Este tipo de energía mantiene una alta eficiencia energética y no se ve afectado por la temperatura del aire.
The most important conclusions are: the use of geothermal energy can be revitalized between Chile and New Zealand with commitments to reduce carbon dioxide emissions to mitigate global climate change. Chile and New Zealand have great potential to carry out technology transfer between research centers as CEGA and private companies, with the possibility of applying for projects with agreements for both countries. The authors wrote an opinion column regarding geothermal energy, focusing on low enthalpy energy at the residential level, since it is economically more feasible. It also takes advantage of the local geothermal resource. It needs a minimum of maintenance. Finally, it has no visual or environmental impact due to noise.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you. Good work. Good work. I like it. I have just a question for you. Where I can read the opinion column?
By email, Francisco.
Okay, if you want, you can email me, or you can post the opinion column in LinkedIn or Instagram, something like that, and we can hatch the Wind of Change program and deliver it to everyone. Okay?
Yeah, it's open access.
Okay, and we can also put it in the Wind of Change webpage. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
If you are good with that, of course. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Here we have a congratulations from Steve Baeza. So to your work, so thank you. thank you for everyone. To all the group, I'm really proud of the work that you did. It's amazing work, and in my opinion, has better quality than I thought at the beginning. So I really like it. I really enjoy watching the videos, seeing the presentation. The most important, I really enjoy working with you, was a really good human group. And it's not only work, it's more feeling how we work together. That was really amazing. I can see on you a really good group of humans, and also researchers, also professional, and of course, and I hope that you can pass all this energy and good value to tackle the problem of climate change. Okay, now the final word of our leader in this program.
All right. Well, listen, I'd really like to first thank our participants from New Zealand and Chile. For the guests that are out there, you know, I really hope you're impressed as I am with what these young leaders, future leaders have accomplished, and really where they're going to go from here. To the participants, you guys have really laid the foundation for this program. You really started the network through this project work that you've done and through all of the interactions that you've had over the summer. And so I am just so grateful for all the hard work, effort you guys have put into this. Your presentations are beautiful, they're creative, they're really well informed, they're really articulate. And the leadership team here are going to work really, really hard to make sure they're showcased in a way that give all of you full credit for all of your work that you've done. And you know, I really hope that these projects can be springboards that can help you maybe move in new directions in your careers, in your fields of study, whatever you do, whatever you decide to do next. So I'd like to echo again many of Francisco's comments. Again, we're just starting this program out. We're going to be able to continue this program in the future, which I'm so excited about, and we'll be sure to include you guys in our activities as we go forward and as we begin to continue to grow the network. I'd like to say something particular to our 10 participants that are based in Chile. I really want to acknowledge your hard work, commitment, despite all of the difficulties that are going around the world right now. I mean, you guys had to work, you know, much harder than our New Zealand-based folks in terms of doing project research, arranging interviews, navigating language barriers and time differences, and so we acknowledge that. You know, my view at the very beginning of this program, when I came up with this idea over a year ago now, was to really be doing this in person, and so we did a lot of scrambling to make sure that we can fully include you guys based in Chile. I know we can do more. I'm really grateful for you guys sticking it out with us through this program. And I say that on behalf of our entire leadership team, including Christina and Greer, who can be here today. So as we continue to grow the program and hopefully grow it to the point where we can start doing in-person exchanges, I really hope to meet all of you in Chile one day, and we'll definitely try to make that happen. To our guests that have joined us today, thank you so much for your time and for coming to see what these great participants have done. Again, I'm so proud of what they have accomplished, and you'll be hearing more of us and our activities down the road. And then finally, the last thing I'd like to say is just to thank CAPE and then our leadership team here, especially Philippa, who's done so much heavy lifting in the last few months to get these things available, make all of your hard work available to everybody, and organizing this workshop and symposium. So I'm really grateful, Philippa. So that's all I have to say for now. Thank you all again. We'll be in touch with all of you as we begin to develop the program, as we place your materials online. And again, thanks on behalf of CAPE, the leadership team, and the University of Otago here for joining us today and for all of your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Ciao.
Bye.